Welcome to the podcast where passion and purpose collide. We are on a mission to interview women and the occasional token man about how their passion and purpose have collided to create healthy relationships and profitable businesses. I'm Elizabeth Denham of the Franchise Woman magazine. I'm here with Rebecca Monet, Chief Scientist of Zoracle Profiles. And as usual, we're going to start the show off with our roses and thorns of the week. It's been a tough week to think of. I feel like it's been we said earlier, vanilla. I don't want to be vanilla. I feel like I've had a little bit of a vanilla couple of days. Although my son just left to tell me he was going to get something to eat in a snarky way.
Snarky? I love that
Snarky.
word.
He was a little snarky. At 17, that happens. So there was my thorn. My rose is that after the fourth one and then one below, I can laugh at it. I don't think I take things too seriously or too personally with my kids when they're mad. I figure if they're not mad at you, at some point you're not doing it right. But sometimes when you get tired, I'll never forget my middle son was just spouting off one night and he wanted to have a discussion. And I was like, I am too tired. I am too stressed. If we have it now, it's not going to go well for you. So give me the night and we'll talk about it in the morning. And he was relentless. And I'm like, I have told you where I am. I am in a place where this is not going to be well received. And so you need to back off. And teenagers don't like to do that. They want to deal with things in the immediacy. Yeah. And, you know, we're dealing with the whole virtual school thing because of the pandemic. And I said, are you meeting up with anyone? Because we've had a little issue with meeting up with people and not telling us that he's doing that. And he's like, no, I don't have any friends, which was an accusation, not a statement. Oh. I don't have any friends because you're not letting me hang out with my friends. How dare you?
Isolated me.
Yeah. But I'm just going to laugh about it and think, well, this will pass. And I'm sorry that he feels that way, but oh well, I'm still keeping him healthy. Sorry.
Yeah. You know, being a parent is hard, especially today where parents don't know the difference between being your child's best friend and being a true parent. A true parent isn't always liked.
I don't like it when people say that because I think that's not the relationship. I think my mom and I are friends now.
Yeah.
I'm becoming friends with my daughter, Hannah, who's 22. Because she's old enough to make her own decisions. But I don't think that's a good thing when a parent says my 15-year-old is my best friend.
My best friend. I don't think it's healthy.
Mm-mm.
I don't think it's healthy. You know, what you did through that example of saying, this is not the right time to discuss this because I'm not in a mental space or physical space that I can have a good conversation with you and you may hear something you don't want to hear. That was an adult response. And as children, especially as teenagers where our hormones and our emotions are all over the place, sometimes we have to have an adult say, this is the boundary, this is a yes, this is a no, this is okay, this is not. They don't need more friends. They need parents.
Well, I feel exactly the same way. And we've had some troubles with our blended family with the other parents wanting to be more on a friend level. And then that backlash comes back on us because Donald and I are very much on the same page with our parenting styles in terms of not being friends and being the boundary setters. And, you know, that's the whole crux of conflict with teenagers particularly is that they're trying to push on those boundaries, which they're supposed to because you want them to be independent, but you're trying to keep the boundaries at an appropriate and age appropriate place. And with each child, with 5 of them, it's been very difficult because the maturity levels at different ages have not aligned.
Of course.
And so you have to, one rule that one person may be able to have more freedom sooner because they're more mature and the other one may not. And then it looks really unfair.
It's unfair.
But if you're going to prove to me that you can't make good choices, then you're not going to be allowed to make as many choices. That's just the way that it works.
That's the way it is in life and business.
Yeah, it is. It applies to everything. You know, you get what you earn, I guess.
Yeah, you get what you earn, and what you don't earn, usually you take for granted.
Exactly. So what about your week? What are your roses and thorns?
So I have needed to have a difficult conversation And I am not good at difficult conversations. It's not my skill set. I'm a behavioral scientist. You think I could do that?
So much easier to analyze it in others.
Well, here's what you need to say, and this is how you do it, and then you approach it. It's great when you're a great coach and whatever, but when it's you yourself that has to have that conversation, and then add to it, I need to have this difficult conversation, and I'm also very outcome driven, right? So every conversation in my mind has to have a particular goal or outcome. And I'm like, okay, I can't even have this conversation until I know what my ultimate goal is, right? And since I wasn't clear on the goal, I couldn't have the conversation. So I have been procrastinating on this difficult conversation. I'm not even going to tell you how long.
Embarrassingly long?
It's embarrassingly long.
Oh,
yes.
no.
Yeah, I should have had it a long time ago. It would have definitely reduced my pain level a whole lot. But I had it today. So it was amazing to me, even though it was a difficult conversation, the rose out of that was, it was out on the table. And now it was something that could be addressed and handled, where before it was just all in my head and in my heart. So I was kind of surprised how emotionally relieved I was to when the conversation was done and a plan was put in action. I had no idea. I mean, I guess I did know how exhausting indecision is.
It's horrible because you're in limbo. I always say I have two horrible feelings that I hate the most in the world. One is frustration. And I think it was because I was frustrated in my marriage for 11 years. And my other one is limbo. I think and you were in limbo because
I was in limbo.
No idea which way you were going to go and what decision you were going to make. And now you may not have resolved it completely, but you have somewhat of a path forward.
At least, yeah. Right. Exactly. So it's going in a particular direction, or at least there's a plan. But you're right. I think this limbo land, we'll have to do a whole show on limbo land.
It's the worst place to live.
And I was in limbo land. It's exhausting. It's a lot of energy to go nowhere. You're kind of just treading.
That's exactly it.
You know, better to make the wrong decision and stumble in that conversation than to not have that conversation or make that decision. So roses everywhere right now.
So you're feeling relieved and limbo-less?
I am less in a limbo world, yes.
Well, that is a good thing. And you know, I've discovered too with dread, I also hate dread. I have three things. I hate it.
There might be more.
I might have a whole litany. I don't even know. But dread, to me, when you're in that moment, it is so painful. And almost always, it's never as bad as you have worked it up to be, the actual act of whatever it is you're putting off.
Right.
So if we would all just not, I mean, that's a lesson I've learned it a million times, probably. Stop putting things off and just do it. It's not as bad as you think.
Do it. You know, the Nike, or do it anyway kind of thing.
Exactly.
So I bet dread and limbo are kind of hand in glove. I bet they go together.
I think they are. I think they do. I think this is, I'm going to be thinking about this the rest of the evening.
I know. I love it.
Well, good. That's problems resolved. Roses abound.
We're so good at it.
That's great. All right. Well, I think that's a good place to transition, and we will be back next week with more roses and thorns. So tune in. Welcome back to the podcast where passion and purpose collide. We are here with our exciting guest. Rebecca, why don't you tell us who we've got today?
As you know, I'm really excited about Heather. I'm so glad that we got to nab her for a few minutes. So those of you that don't know Heather Hudson, Heather is the COO and co-founder of 9-round kickboxing. And she's been with the brand since it was founded in 2008. She's also a mom of two, a black belt holder, and a fitness competitor. Heather grew up with a passion for fitness and overall wellness, but after having two kids, she found herself needing more results out of her exercise program, which she discovered through kickboxing. Heather's a huge advocate also of women in fitness, and through 9 rounds, she has been able to take her passion for fitness and support women every day across brands with 800 locations around the world. Heather's passion is now helping others realize that their fitness goals are never too high. And since opening the first 9-round studio in 2008, membership has grown to more than 70% women. So hopefully we'll get to hear about that. So Heather's fondness for helping others doesn't just stop in the gym. She's also extremely dedicated to helping her 9-round franchisees reach their financial goals. So Heather, welcome to the show. We're so glad to have you.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
So fun.
It is fun, and I love the whole. I have not done kickboxing since my son was probably less than 6 months old, and I did it trying to lose baby weight, and it was so much fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Punching your way fit. It's legal and it's fun.
Legal.
And therapeutic also, right?
Yes, very much.
Yeah. So Heather, we talk to a lot of women here on the show, and you work with your husband. In fact, you're co-founder with your husband in 9-round. Can you tell us a little bit about how that works, working with your husband, and how you kind of keep a balance of all of that?
Yeah. I would venture to say it might not be for everyone, working with your spouse, but we are very blessed. It works really well for us. We love it. In fact, I'm home today working, and we've been alternating days in the office, and that's really new for us. I told my daughter the other day, I said, Shannon just got home and I haven't seen him all day, and I'm not used to that. I'm used to seeing him literally all day long. And I had to catch him up on my day, and he had to catch me up on his. So it's funny when we're not together side by side, but yes, our offices they have a share a wall. So we have offices right next to each other in our headquarters building. But, we've been doing it for 12 years, right? So I would not say it hasn't had challenges. It definitely has. And yet so rewarding. It really is if you do it right. And when I say do it right, that there's not necessarily a right way to do it, but what works for us, is the right way for us. And I know it's a cliche to say, but we have really found our lanes. And we are really, really happy in those lanes. And I think that finding that honestly has been escalated, and we've compounded what those are and discovering what those are in just the past several years, more than ever before. So as the brand matures, as the company grows, we have divided and conquered even more than ever before. And that has proved to be even more beneficial for our working relationship, but also for the company, because like dividing and conquering, we're able to get, feels like twice as much done for the company, right? So it's been really, really more fun to really settle into what makes me really thrive and what I know is my sweet spot, and him as well. When you try to do everything, you're going to be kind of mediocre at a lot of things. So if you can just surrender and say, I'm good at this and I'm going to do this and you're good at that, you do that. We read this book called Rocket Fuel, and that was a really big game changer for both of us. It was like, oh my gosh, they wrote a book about us. And it truly is about us. Like, he's the visionary and I'm the implementer type, and those are the two types. And there we were in the book. And really settling into those roles has been really, really like stress relieving. and allowed us both to just thrive in our lanes and celebrate the other one for having that strength, you know, because honestly, if you don't celebrate the other one's strengths, it can drive you crazy, right? So my husband could go insane with how many things I want to, how many questions I have and how many things I want to dig into the details of, while he's driving me equally crazy saying, I have another idea. And I'm like, no more ideas. I cannot handle another one of your ideas. But if you understand, you read this book, you go, oh, okay, no, that's his gift. His gift is ideas. He's going to have 14 ideas a day, and he's going to throw them all at the wall and see what sticks. And I'm over here like, I'm still trying to work on the idea you had for us last week and make that happen. And I just need to take a deep breath and know that not every idea he says is something that we're going to actually start working on right now. You know, like the pressure that I would imagine wasn't really real. Mm-hmm. And then he has to like embrace that I'm a detail-oriented person. I'm going to ask all the questions. I'm going to tear it apart, rip it to shreds, poke holes in it, and then we can get started. And that's just kind of the way I prep for things. But we are in a really, really amazing place. It's more satisfying than ever. And I would say that old saying, stay in your lane, is a huge part of why we're there. And we're really happy there. So it works.
Wow. What great advice for anyone, whether they're a franchisee or in your case, a franchisor, is to understand each other's gifting and strengths and passions and do everything possible to acknowledge that, recognize it, celebrate that, and the other does the same for you. And then, like you said, it's that when we celebrate that and we work together, we don't just have the power of one or two, but we multiply what can get done, because there's no arm wrestling, there's no jousting going on, and there's a trust for one another. That's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, and when you say celebrate and embrace their strength, you really need to honestly do that. You know, it would be easy for me to just act like I was on board with any idea and truly vetting it out and thinking, is this a good idea? Should we do this? But I could just the whole time actually have a closed mind, and it will never go anywhere. Right. So, you know, the business we're in was my husband's idea. This whole thing is his brainchild. So obviously he has amazing ideas, right? Because here we are. So you do have to hear them all, and he needs that. He needs that support. He needs to be heard and have every idea heard, or he's going to not want to share, right? Mm-hmm. So that wouldn't be what I'd want either. And I think we've just both learned to embrace each other's styles and also just let things go when we don't have as much friction as we used to, because we truly just let things go. And I don't know if that's just the magic of turning over 40. Start to put things into perspective and go, does this really matter? And most of the time the answer is probably, it doesn't really matter. Let it go. So I think we're both there in our lives as well.
Well, and I think that's probably true. Turning 40 does let you let a lot of things go and prioritize. But I also think the duration of your relationship and the business together, you've developed a level of trust.
Yeah.
Because he's going to throw out 15 ideas at once, and then he's got to trust you to say, okay, this one's good, this one might work, this one's for the future, this one's never going to happen. So if you don't have that going both ways, where you're open to his ideas, but he's going to trust you to make good decisions with those ideas, and tell him if one's just, you know, not a great fit or a wonderful idea, but we need to do that in 6 months after we've done 3 of these other ones. I mean, so do you think that plays a part in terms of, I mean, letting things go is one thing, but also trusting each other to have each other's backs and make those good choices?
Yeah, you nailed it. I think that's exactly what's going on. If I do say, I just don't think that's a good fit, he knows I really did try hard and think about it. He trusts that I really did put it through all the processes in my brain, and it's coming from a real place of exploration. Like I really thought about it. I think it's either maybe wait, like you said, or whatever the answer is, or whatever my opinion is. He knows that he can trust that I really did think about it and didn't just say, I thought about it, you know, that'd be really frustrating. But yeah. And then at the same time, I have to also be willing to be flexible and understand that sometimes the answer is still going to be, we're going to do this. And I might not want to or love it. I mean, we do not always agree on absolutely everything. And that's another, you know, pipe dream that I think people think might be attainable. And it's just not. 99.9% of the time we're on the same page. But sometimes if we're just not, at the end of the day, he is the CEO. And I do have to, of course, respect that, and we'll do it anyway, and with my full support. So you have to be on board with that mentality. And, you know, that's been a journey, but we're there, and it's really nice, and it's more comfortable than ever. So.
How beautiful that is, to have that level of respect for one another. So I guess that brings up a whole nother series of questions to me, because not everyone is that self-aware, right? Or emotionally that healthy, where they don't have to be right all the time or have their own way all the time. And I'm assuming there was some process involved with that too, besides just 12 years of being together and growing this business. But how did you get to such a place where you were this aware and capable of compromise and knowing when to let go versus to push for your own thoughts or opinions? What was that whole process like?
Yeah, wow, that's a loaded question and a very delicate balance, right? I am a work in progress. I'll just say that. But when we started dating, one of the things that drew us together was our like-mindedness. I found a man who read books. I was like,
wow.
So myself. I was like, you read? I'm like, hello there. You know, I was just like, you're way more interesting now that I know this. I knew him through the karate school. You mentioned I got my black belt, and that's how I met him. But when I got to know him, you know, outside of work, I got to know that he had this mind for knowledge, just a thirst for knowledge, right? And that was like me. And there just weren't a lot of guys my age that were into reading. I was 26 years old, 25, 26, right around there. And, you know, finding deep thinking 26-year-olds just wasn't just easy to come by. But to be able to have deep discussions on every topic, from success to business to your personal spirituality and life, was really rewarding and very, very satisfying conversations for both of us. So we have both been students of life, students of the mind, bettering ourselves, trying to self-help books is pretty much all that lines our library shelves. There's just no fiction in the house. It's all nonfiction biographies or just the self-help, self-improvement category, right? And that drew us together. So our foundation of our relationship is that. And so we are the type of people that are constantly trying to figure out that next, no matter how small, the next layer of the brain that needs to be delved into and bettered. And I believe with everything I have that we are here and our purpose is to go as high as you can. And what I mean by that is happy, but always seeking a higher purpose. Happy, but never satisfied is one way to say it. Just always trying to level up one bit more. And it's not out of dissatisfaction. It's out of the innate human need for growth. Like nature is always pushing to grow. And I feel that way about my mind. It's always wanting that next bit of information and wanting to learn how to just be a little bit better or a lot better or whatever it is. And it's like layers and layers and layers, right? You can read one person's opinion on a certain topic and read someone else's and get something amazing out of it, but it's on the same topic, right? And so we've both been students of ourselves each for a really long time. You said, how are we, so that awareness, you're so right. It's not, you don't stumble across self-aware people just as much as I wish you could. But it's
True.
I don't know how that came out, but I feel like we live in an age where knowledge is anywhere. It is so easy to learn. It is free, pretty much free. You can learn a topic of anything, and it's almost inexcusable not to. I mean, that's how I feel. And I love it. I love learning about myself, and I'm a huge advocate for mental health, because I don't think you just accidentally become really self-aware. I just don't think you do. I think it's a choice. It's a grueling task. It isn't always fun. It means you have to see things about yourself that are not pretty. But guess what? Everybody else already knows it about you. It's just already out there. So, yeah, I'm so thankful. We have the best discussions, and I could tell him, I read a crazy book, crazy out there, and he'd be like, tell me about it, and that's a nice place to be. There's no topic off limits, and it's just a really open, free space of dialogue. But I am so thankful that we both are that type, and we're teaching our kids to be that way.
Yeah.
They're both super, super kind. And I have a 20-year-old and I have a 13-year-old. And my 20-year-old is more self-aware than I was at 20. And she has learned stuff I didn't learn until I was 30. And I'm so thankful that I've been able to push her and prod her in that direction. But she's also prodding me to learn things too. And when we're, she's an adult now, and there's a new dynamic there, right? She teaches me just as much as I used to teach her. And then my 13-year-old.
That's a fun age. That's such a fun age, don't you think?
20?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're two women beside each other now, and then sometimes she still needs her mom, right? So
yeah.
It is fun. You're right, because she is like now almost like my best friend, plus the perk of being my daughter, and we just get this extra benefit. We're really close, and I'm super thankful for that. But then I have my son who's 13, and what a fun age too. I mean, he's learning about weightlifting. He's learning about fitness. He's learning about how to help dad do projects around the house. They work together and do all these things, and he's learning how to use all these tools. And at the same time, my point is, I'm kind of going off on a tangent here, but I'm just so proud of my kids, that he's so sweet. And I tell him all the time, you're so sweet. Don't lose that. And he does. He worries about the homeless people and the people in the news he sees, and he asks questions, and he's a very self-aware kid. Even though he might not talk to his friends about it, he talks to us about it, and we encourage him to express what he sees and, in the media, things happening in the world, and make sure he's not clammed up, but he's talking. So, empowering our kids to have that same self-awareness is super important to us. I know I just talked your ear off, but
but you know what's so funny? Yeah, I completely agree with you.
Mental health, and you said self-awareness and kids, and I went off on a tangent.
Yeah, but I think that's something that's missing a lot in today's kids, because we have the same philosophy as you do with our kids. And my kids, one of them in particular, has a reading list of probably 50 books that he feels that he was not given the opportunity to read in high school, and he was undereducated on some of the things he should have read. So now he's just reading them. And some of them are off the wall, like you said, but I think if you don't read things that go beyond your experience, even if they're things like he's bought the Communist Manifesto the other day because he wanted to know what that was and how it came into being and where it fits in the history of government in the world. And I just think it's so exciting when you have kids like that who, and it's because of the way that you, I'm sure, speak to them and educate them. encourage them to find out about the world around them and be engaged with it and talk about it. So I think I love that story with your 13-year-old, especially asking all those questions in the world and figuring it out.
And I would say the business has afforded us an opportunity to show them both that no matter what, people are people. I mean, we're in 19 countries, and we've had the honor of having many of those master developers have dinner with us, or we'll take them out to dinner when they come here. And my kids have gotten to eat dinner with Saudi Arabian master developers, to Mexican, to Japanese. And I'm so thankful that, you know, something as casual as that can be something normal to them, which is such a cool life experience. And it just breaks down the barriers. If there were any barriers or anything in their minds, there's just not, because you break bread with people and you realize we're all the same, and it's just super cool for them. So I'm grateful for those kinds of more unique experiences that we've been able to have together.
So Heather, I love this idea of various cultures and reading and helping your children learn and have an open mind, and you and your husband doing the same thing, pushing each other to grow, knowing that this is an innate thing for us to want to grow spiritually, emotionally, intellectually, professionally. It's an innate thing. This self-awareness, this growth mentality, is it something with 9 Round that you then also pass on to your franchisees? Do you also encourage them in their mental health, professional health, spiritual health, or however you want to describe it? Is it something that carries through to your franchisees?
Well, it better. Our company's mission statement is making members stronger in 30 minutes, physically and mentally. And we worked with a business coach several years back to fine tune that message, and every word in there deserved and earned its right on the page, because it was meticulously poured over for weeks and weeks and weeks. And we couldn't leave out physically and mentally. It had to be both. And exercise is a physical act, and it absolutely benefits your physical self, but it absolutely mentally benefits you as well. And my personal journey with that is I found mental strength by first being physically active. So that was also a really long discussion, was which comes first? Is it mental strength first and then you get strong physically? And we feel very strongly that if you can just get yourself to move physically and begin a physical fitness program, your mental strength will be paralleled with it for the rest of your life. And that has been my personal journey. I've been through some very interesting and very challenging things in my life, and physical movement was what got me through it mentally, honestly. And when I found kickboxing and martial arts as a physical movement, that was a really big game changer, because I felt more mentally empowered than I'd ever felt in my life. But when we deliver a 30-minute workout to our members, and our owners too, they all work out, right? Of course, in their own locations. That physical 30 minutes makes you mentally stronger, because there's probably various times during that 30-minute workout you want to stop. It's a little bit uncomfortable. Working out isn't easy, and it's challenging, and the mind is a ping pong match. Yes, you can. I just want to stop. I'm tired. We'll keep going. What are you here for? You know, like all these things in your head. And when you're done and you didn't stop, and you didn't quit, and you did the whole workout, you are mentally stronger. You might not be physically stronger just yet after one workout, but you can be mentally stronger after only one workout, because you leave and you go, I didn't know I was made of that. I didn't know I could do that. When I did my first push-up on my toes, not on my knees, mental strength right there. And when I was able to kick a little higher, mental strength, confidence, empowered feeling, and it's incredible. So I know right now is a very unsure time, and a lot of people are mentally very, very down, and rightfully so. There's a lot of uncertainty. Physical movement can break that paralysis that you can get yourself into, and it doesn't have to be long, but do something. And what I mean by that is, if you're in business, get out and market just 2 or 3 or just one. Just get out and do one thing towards your business today, and then tomorrow do 2. But if you hate working out or you hate your body, do 3 minutes of exercise, and then the next day do 4. Not everybody who comes to 9 round does the full 30 minutes. You hear 30 and you think it's so short. It's actually a really tough workout. Some people just do 4 of the 9. So they just do 4 rounds. So that's like 12 minutes or so. And that's okay. And we say, you did awesome. I'm guarantee you come back, you'll be able to do 6 or 7 and then maybe 9 the third time. They come back and no lie, they do it. And talk about something that makes you feel amazing. I mean, to be able to know you couldn't physically, and then to be able to know that you physically did something, that empowers the mind more than anything that I've experienced in my life. Fitness has been an absolute lifesaver for all the mental challenges I've had in my life, and a physical one as well. But we're just huge advocates for what it does for the mind. You end up being a better parent, a better employee, a better spouse, just a better human.
A better human, a better decision maker.
You feel better, and you feel better about yourself. And finding out what you can do physically really shows you.
Uh-oh, we lost your sound.
We lost your sound there. Can you check your sound?
Heather, we lost your sound.
She froze up.
She froze.
She froze.
All right, we'll give her a minute or so.
Yeah.
The points that Heather is making are so powerful, that body-mind connection. There's a saying, the quality of life is the quality of your movement. And the way Heather was talking about it's not just a physical movement, but just taking action, right? As a business owner, taking action, making that phone call, going to that networking meeting, going to lunch with a potential client, just taking action. And of course, that mind-body connection, we build new synapses and builds our confidence and increases our resilience and our tenacity and our decision-making skills. So she really hit that point home when she's talking about this whole idea of, move, get that body involved, because that will also have a therapeutic effect on the mind.
Well, it does. And I have found that to be so true. We've talked about it. If I don't, and all I can do right now is take walks in the neighborhood because I'm having knee troubles. But if I don't do that for a couple of days, I just feel awful. Like stress, more tension, more mind clutter. And it's just like a 40-minute 2-mile loop in the neighborhood. And I try to do it every day, but we've had rain for days. And you can tell there's such an impact. And I do think what she's saying is so true. When you experience that lack of physical activity, it's harder to take action in your work or in your life, or in, you just tend to get a little more stuck, I think.
I agree. I found the same thing. As you know, I broke my femur a few months ago, and so I'm not nearly as physical. I'm not out playing pickleball, that's for sure. And I loved how she put it, because I can tell a difference in my mental resilience and my overall kind of health and well-being, simply because the quality of my movement isn't there.
Yeah.
And this idea that she talked about also of were really sort of goal-oriented, or actually I think she used the word growth-oriented individuals. So it's easy to get comfortable. It's easy to get content,
Mm-hmm.
you know, especially if we've had a certain level of success. But the reality is, as human beings, we are kind of innately pushed to get just a little better, just a little better, just a little
Mm-hmm.
better. And physical exercise, where we get just a little bit stronger this month than the last month, or a little bit more endurance, those same habits then cross over into habits that will show up in our businesses and in our personal
Absolutely.
lives and in our marriages and those kinds of things.
Well, and that's one reason I'm really a big fan of trackers. Like I have my little watch that tracks everything, heart rate, workout, my stress level even. If I sleep in it, it'll track how well I slept. Um, and
Wow.
I kind of like it. I try, and I track on a calendar. Like, did I work out today? Did I, um, you know, did I gain or lose weight? Did I do whatever? And being able to see those things over time, I think when you have that interest in knowing, that applies across the board too. You want to know in your business what was, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
I have my 6-month rule where if I'm feeling really crappy about my life, I look back 6 months and say, am I better off now than I was then? And usually it's yes. And so tracking can help you. Sometimes it's just incremental. It's a little tiny thing that is better than it was last time. And sometimes it's not, but that's rare, I think. I think usually over a long period, you're better off than you were. And if you can show that to yourself,
Mm-hmm.
it's really helpful.
Very interesting. I like the idea of measurements and tracking. We do it in business, right? I look at my profit and loss statement every single month and what's going on in my my business. But to have some kind of tracking device for other things in our lives too, we can
Mm-hmm.
see progression, because it can get kind of frustrating to be at a certain place. If we're measuring ourselves against the future self, we're never going to measure up, right? Because the future
Mm-hmm.
self is all perfect and healthy and rich and stress-free, but the current self is not quite there yet. But if we compare ourselves to where we came from and we see the progress, that's got to be
Oh
I would
yeah.
think that's got to be crazy empowering.
I think so. Well, and I'll tell you a funny story. My son, my first son, was a horrible sleeper. He's 22, still a horrible sleeper. He just cannot shut the brain off. And we ended up having to let him cry it out. And the decision was made when
Ooh.
he was screaming like he was about to die. And I walked in and he laughed at me. And I was like, you're a little manipulator. That's what you are. You're not in pain or sad. You cried until I came. And every time I would walk in, he would laugh at me. So, finally, I would let him cry it out. Well, that stubborn mule would cry for an hour. I would put the microwave timer on for an hour and he would cry for 50, because I thought I can't do it more than that. He'd cry 59 minutes.
Oh
And I
my.
had a journal because it was so small, the improvement. The next day might be 57 minutes. And so I had to write it down every day so that I knew there was progress, or I was going to go insane with this child. But anytime I gave in and went in there, he laughed. So it
That's
had to be done.
brilliant.
Oh, he was he was a challenging one as a baby, that one.
Uh,
But I tracked it so that I wouldn't give up, because I thought eventually he's got to sleep, right? I can't be up for the rest of his life waiting on him to fall asleep.
wow, that's brilliant. And that applies to just about anything
Oh
in
yeah.
our lives, you know, whether it's a learning curve and it gets smaller as time goes on, as we get better at it, or an employee we're training or something of that nature. But there's all those things. If we look at how we're getting better at something, it definitely increases our tenacity and commitment if we
Right.
see some change, right?
Right.
Never mind, it brings back a little bit of hope, like, okay,
Exactly.
57
Something's gonna
minutes for
57 minutes is better than 60. All right, Heather has come back on, so I'm going to rejoin her.
okay.
I'll never forget that though.
Yeah.
22 years later, I'm still griping about it. Hi, Heather. She's
Hey,
connecting.
I don't know what happened.
You
That's all right.
you froze up. We continued the conversation as if you were here. And we're so glad to have you back.
That's so funny. But so you were talking about how it makes you a better human to have that physical activity that leads to the mental aspect of it. And I have absolutely found that in my life too. I was a ballet dancer for 30 years. And it was a hard transition when I was physically unable to do it anymore, because that wears your body out relatively quickly. So you have to find, but in terms of trying to find an alternative, it was a more of a mental challenge for me than a physical one, because that was how I coped with the stress of my life. And I was telling Rebecca, I walk my neighborhood now every day because I'm having some knee problems. And if I don't get that walk, and it's not even the best workout in the world compared to what I was used to, but if I don't do it, my stress level is worse. My mood is not as great. I'm not as sweet to my family. My brain is cluttered more. Like sometimes if I just need to walk away from the computer, I can just go outside and take a walk and come back and I'm like, okay, now I can do it. So
I think you're right. It doesn't matter what kind of exercise it is, really just do what you love. If you do the workout, you'll do because you do something. But when I was raised on a very healthy dose of step aerobics by Jane Fonda.
Oh yeah.
So when I'm talking VHS, tapes, I did those in my living room growing up. So I learned about form and general fitness from that. But when I went and took martial arts for the first time, my intention was to learn self-defense. And I ended up saying, what is this? I love this type of fitness. And I was hooked. Like it was so different for me and I felt very empowered. So I had never seen another type of fitness show me my strength so much. This kickboxing really shows you how powerful you are as just an army of one, right?
Right.
And so when my husband said I have this inspiration to turn martial arts into a more accessible type of workout that isn't so overwhelming feeling, like, there's a handful of people that want to go get a black belt, crazy people.
But not for everyone.
It's not for everybody, but who doesn't want to be a little more trim and tight and toned? That's pretty much everybody. Raise your hand, right? So
exactly.
That's why women love it so much. You alluded to that earlier, and yes, over 70% of our member base across the world is female, and I think it's because they probably felt very similar to how I felt. Like, wow, I am so much stronger than I knew. And that feels so good. And your confidence is just through the roof. And your jeans fit better. So it's a win-win.
It absolutely is. And that leads us into our next point, actually, when you talk about being the one, it's a discipline, I think. The martial arts forms of exercise are similar to dance in that they are a discipline. There is form, there is consistency has to be there for you to maintain your form. And then you have all the other things that go with it, strength and balance and all of those things. And I think that women in particular like to feel that sense of discipline. I feel better about myself when I feel like I've been disciplined in my workout or routine or dance or kickboxing, whatever it is. So in terms of that, we have talked some about your fighter name and where that comes from and what that means. So tell us about that and how that translates into some of the things we've been talking about.
Yeah, I'm Heather the hero. My husband is Shannon the cannon. And at 9 Round, everybody has a fighter name. All the owners have to have a fighter name. All my employees in the office, at home office, have a fighter name. And every new member, we encourage them to have a fighter name. So first of all, it's personal and you can pick what you like. Maybe you have a nickname you already love, and if not, we'll help you think of one, like Elizabeth the Eliminator. And Eliminator. That's a good one, right? My son is Action Jackson. So sometimes it rhymes, sometimes it's like first letter alliterations, and that's fun. But whatever it is, it needs to mean something to you. And for me, hero is maybe not what you think it is. Normally you think of a hero as coming and rescuing you, right? Because you're in distress. But for me, the Heather, the hero intention is that everybody has their hero within them. I'm not trying to get too mushy, but I think that we are all our own hero. And that is what I think of when I say the name. And we have this fun thing that we do. If you have achieved the milestone of 500 9-round workouts, you get an email that tells you you did that as a 9-round member, which is pretty cool. And you can forward that to a certain department in our company. And my husband and I hand sign a pair of golden gloves. And you can only earn them. You cannot buy the golden gloves. You have to get 500 workouts, and we mail them to you. And I write "Be Your Own Hero" on every single pair that I send, on the glove that I sign. And so that's my intention is, again, the whole empowerment thing. You're stronger than you think you are. You are the one constant that will always be there for you, right? No matter what. Hopefully you have amazing people in your life that will always be there for you. But in case anything happens, you're there for you. So don't underestimate your own power. You really don't need anything outside of yourself. It's you. And really that should be the way it is. And then everyone else in your life gets to be a part of that. Like you're full so you can give to others. You're not an empty vessel that has to be rescued or needs from others, but you're a full vessel. You've cared for yourself. Again, the whole taking care of yourself so that you have something to give to others. That's not selfish. It's not selfish to take care of yourself first. Be your own hero, and then you can be there for others, right? So it's just that whole self-care, self-love, notice your self-worth, and that's all where it comes from. So it's special to me.
Heather, the hero Hudson, it's appropriate. And it has a wonderful message to all women in that we are the one individual we can rely on. So building that inner strength, building our physical strength, our mental strength through constant learning and exercise and pushing the boundaries can build our own hero inside. So Heather, we truly appreciate your time. And in our last conversation, I took 1,000 notes, and I know Elizabeth did too. So I'm so glad that you were willing to share some of these insights with our listeners. So thank you for being with us today.
You ladies are awesome. Thank you for having me. I'm honored to have been here.
So
it was great. Go ahead.
The final question we have for you is, how do people get hold of you that are interested in speaking to you further or learning more about 9-round?
Oh, well, if you, there's a couple of different things they might be interested in, the workout or maybe owning a business. So 9round.com, that's the number 9, ROUND.com. There's a tab for find a location near you. With as many as we have, there's probably one close to you, and they all give a free workout. You can go through that full experience, and maybe you'll get hooked like I did my first martial arts workout, my first kickboxing workout. But you can try it out, see if it's everything that I've hyped it up to be, and if it's for you. And then of course some people are maybe interested in owning their own business, and the entrepreneurial spirit has them. So we have a tab there to learn about the requirements for owning a 9-round and what that looks like. And if you want more information, that's where you submit it, and a wonderful team will reach out and nurture you through that process if that's what you wish. So I would say for anything related to the business, just go to 9round.com, and it's all there for them.
And that's without the S. It's just 9round, no S.com.
Yeah, if I had a nickel for every time someone said 9 rounds, but anyway, it's a 9-round workout, and we picked that name. So yeah, 9round.com has everything that anyone could need on there.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Heather. We appreciate your time. This has been a really fun interview. And we will be right back with Women in the Know.
What do you think is the #1 challenge for franchisors? You got it, getting the right fit franchisee. And as you know, poor fit franchisees are often poor performers. Poor fit franchisees cost more to train and support. Poor fit franchisees are rarely satisfied or compliant, which can lead to validation issues. Not a good place to be. But now there is a solution. Zoracle Profile's scientific spot-on match program. Working with top broker groups in franchising, Zoracle has created a platform that scientifically matches the broker's candidate to the right fit franchise brand. Spot-on Match predicts the compatibility, performance, and viability of a prospective franchisee. Spot-on Match gives the franchise development team a data-driven and scientific approach to selling franchises. This is how it works. Zoracle works with each franchisor to establish their top performer blueprint. This research assesses current franchisees to determine the key psychographic indicators that separate high performers from mid to low performing franchisees. The final result of the research is the brand's Eclipse report, which compares prospective franchisees to a franchise system's high performers. Finally, brokers are running a spot-on profile on each of their franchise prospects. These profiles are then scientifically bumped up against the franchisor's high performer algorithms, and the match process begins. Dashboards are built for the franchisor and the broker to make sure the process is smooth and trackable. Right fit matches instantly. Find out how you can be a spot-on match member. Save time. Stop guessing. Start matching. Call Zoracle Profiles.
Welcome to Women in the Know, where we discuss everything from politics and policy to relationships and marketing, and from franchise growth to difficulties between franchisees and franchisors. Today's topic is about how you apply tenacity in the right way. We had talked in Heather Hudson's episode about she and her husband working together and understanding the longer they've worked together, the more they stay in their own lanes and they know what those lanes are and they don't really have a lot of crossover anymore. So we decided it would be great to talk about tenacity as an element of grit, but also what should you be tenacious towards? Sometimes we stay tenacious toward things that are not the strength that we have. So what do you think about that, Rebecca?
I think it's a really great question, and I'm probably a classic bad example of that, because I am kind of a bulldog. I'm a crazy tenacious and I'm full of all kinds of grit. But the point that Heather kept harping at was this idea of staying in your own lane. She and her husband know exactly what their strengths and talents are, and she stays in her lane, which is more that detail person, the person that executes, and her husband is a strategist, big picture idea person. And so the two of them have learned how to balance each other out. And so they get to be tenacious in their own lane. But I'm a good example of the opposite of that. So when Heather was talking about it, I'm like, oh my gosh, she's talking to me. And And that is, as a small business owner, oftentimes we're doing several different parts of the business, and I don't have a business partner. So I do, to this day, still a lot of the sales presentations. And I'm not good at it, and I don't like it. I don't like it, and it's not good use of my time. Mm-hmm. So this idea of being tenacious combined with tenacious in the right way. That go with your strengths, go with the things that you're particularly good at, and don't do somebody else's job, right?
Yeah.
And she and her husband worked that out one way or another, and I thought it was just brilliant.
Well, it was, and she talked about what a great place they are in now, and that it had been a struggle a little bit in the beginning because they were finding that rhythm and deciding who was better at what, and then allowing each other to be those things. She says, I listened to all of his ideas and I realized they're not all going to happen at one time, but she used to feel overwhelmed. And then if she dismissed anything, he would get upset because she's not taking her seriously. But they've learned how to navigate those things. And it made me think of me and my husband in parenting, because, and I think this is stereotypical man, woman. When our kids are having issues or in pain or doing something wrong, I'm always trying to figure out why and how do they feel, what made them do that, how do we move forward, and how do we identify the feeling that drove them to this, or how do they overcome something that's a challenge. He didn't care about their feelings, because he's like, well, they did this and they shouldn't do this, and here's the way we're going to fix that. In the end, it doesn't matter how they feel about it. And sometimes he's right. Sometimes I let my heart lead over my head. I feel badly if something bad has happened to them, even if they've used it as a crutch. And I've had that conversation. You can't use your pain as a crutch. You've got to grow from it and learn. But every time he has a conversation with somebody and they've had something that was upsetting, I'll say, well, how did they feel about that? And he's like, well, I don't know. I didn't ask. Like, how can you not ask? Sometimes it's very critically important to know how they felt, Yeah. So I think that he and I, we don't stay in our lanes purposefully that way. It just is,
Just, yeah.
It is
because
that way.
Because of your wiring as a woman and his wiring as a man, almost kind of does that. And you balance each other out. But for those that are in business, franchisees that might be listening to us that don't have those partners or strong employees that can help that business owner say, this is my lane and I'm going to be tenacious and great at this particular lane, but here's what I need my team to also be able to do. It's kind of the difference between being in the business versus on the business kind of thing. And head and heart is another good example.
I think one thing I think that plays into this too is self-awareness. And sometimes we want to believe we're good at everything. And we don't want to admit that we might not be as great at something as we think we are. And Laura Spalding, when in her interview, I think it was on the Pillars of Franchising, we interviewed her, she talked about that, and hire out your weaknesses. Find somebody who's stronger than you in a certain area that you're weak in, and fill it with someone else. And I think that's really interesting and good advice. And even working together with you over the last few months and going forward on different and new and exciting projects, finding out, I think that you and I have different strengths and weaknesses, and they're very complementary. And being able to say, you have a much better eye for how things look than I do. I have a better eye for how things sound.
It's all about the pretty.
But I'm glad for that, because I know when something looks good, but I'm not the best at getting it there. And so the fact that you are good at that, I'm like, oh, thank God I don't have to worry about that. I've done so many things by myself where I feel like I have to be good at everything. So having someone that you trust to make good choices, or steer you, or say, this one doesn't look quite right, we need to go back and fix this. It's such a relief to me to be able to have that give and take and that partnership that is complementary.
Agreed. And that, like you said, is that self-awareness, is where are we good and where are we just blind, and we shouldn't be doing that thing anyway, right? And we either hire to it, or we partner. In our case, we partner to it, or in Heather's case, you marry it, right?
Right. Or in my husband's case, you just stop singing out loud.
Solves that problem.
Yeah, not good at it. Thinks he is.
Just problem solved. Just
some problems you can just eliminate right away.
That's right. No need to discuss. Just stop it.
No more singing.
No more singing. Solves that problem. I love it. Well, like always, Elizabeth, we're just like Dear Abby here. I tell you, we know how to solve problems very, very quick. And I love this conversation about when should we be tenacious and staying on our lane, and how those two things kind of work together. So we'll wrap this up, and we'll see you next week at another Women in the Know session.
Right. The Franchise Woman is a bi-monthly digital magazine that empowers women as they navigate the franchising industry by providing relevant news, tools, advice, and inspiration. We are a resource for women who are seeking to own their own businesses, improve their existing businesses, find creative solutions, and take advantage of franchise opportunities. We feature women in the business who best exemplify our ideals and have something to teach our readers. In addition to our exclusive articles relating to the female entrepreneur, we also feature brands that are geared for women. Women have become the fastest growing sector in business ownership and have become a powerful, influenceable force fueling the economy. The Franchise Woman will give you the news that is relevant to you to help you navigate the path of successful franchise ownership. By women, for women, and about women. We are the Franchise Woman. Join us today at www.thefranchisewoman.com.
Welcome to Ask Beck and Liz, where no topic is off limits. We want to answer your questions about business, life, and everything in between. So send your questions directly to us at ask@beckandliz.com. That's ask@beckandliz.com, and we will tackle just about any question. So, Elizabeth, our question today is, what do we do to be mentally fit? This came from the topic with Heather.
Heather Hudson, yeah, on her episode. She is very into mental fitness as being a part of your physical health, and I couldn't agree with her more. And I think we talked about in that episode some the exercise, the movement of the body impacts your mental health, which I firmly believe in. I do think that when I don't do exercise, my stress levels become physically manifested in some way. I tend to get headaches. You know, I have had anxiety problems here or there. I used to have stomach aches when I was growing up, which my son has. One of my sons struggles with that. We thought he was lactose intolerant for 6 years, and turns out it was anxiety. He was just very stressed, and now he's less stressed, and he can eat ice cream. He's so excited. But I think here were several points. One is, I think you recognize it when you're not feeling mentally fit, first thing, and then you know that you have to do something about it. And whatever that is, I think can be very individualized. Mine is exercise, but it's also talking to my friends or my husband, or analyzing what it is that's causing that, and then trying to find a solution. So I was telling you earlier offline that I have not felt on top of things or organized, and I'm feeling very chaotic in my head because of that. And I just want to write the word discipline down on my board, which I might actually do when we get off, because that helps me feel like I'm on the right track. When I start to feel like I'm going in 1,000 directions and nothing is getting where I need to be, having that discipline of making the list or making a calendar or knowing what I'm doing when and crossing things off tends to get my mental chaos back to a more manageable level. So what do you do?
I like how you put that, because when the mind is chaotic, right, it's hard to feel healthy. I mean, the mind's going all over. And the process that you use is one of lists and organizing things, and that gives your mind some kind of peace, right? So mental health. I am not as self-aware in this particular department, unfortunately, but I notice when I'm fatigued or mentally exhausted, or my mind isn't completely the way it needs to be, that I am shorter with people, right? Where normally I have incredible patience and tact and diplomacy, I find that I get a little bit shorter with people. And I also find that my cravings increase, which is that body mind thing, right? All of a sudden I'm like, I want sugar, I want ice cream. So it's a signal to me that this is not a physical thing. This is a mental thing, that I'm getting more mouthy or more opinionated or short with people, or I'm starting to crave. And as you know, I gave up sugar almost a year ago. So that tells me something's up.
Mm-hmm.
So what I do in those situations is I recognize that I'm an extrovert and I need human interaction.
Mm-hmm.
And so I instantly get on the phone, I get on Zoom, I call someone to have lunch. I need that human interaction. And we don't even need to talk about what is on my mind or why I'm feeling, stressed or whatever is going on. I don't even need to discuss it. It's that human interaction, that intimacy of a conversation or a meal or a walk or whatever that snaps me right back into a much healthier mental place. So that's what I do. It's just
Mm-hmm.
I party. Well, not really.
You party.
I have to have that human interaction. Get
Well,
out of my head.
Yeah, I think that's important for a lot of people. I think that when you are isolated, and that's why this isolation is harder and it's
So hard.
affecting people mentally. But when you have a connection with somebody, or like it can totally change my mood. I had an interview for the magazine with Meg Roberts this morning, and I was I wasn't having a bad day, but I was just whatever, so here's my day, here's another day. And I talked to her and we had such a good conversation that I was in a great mood for the next hour or however long, So I think that those little things, and it wasn't anything revelatory in terms of life, but we had a great connection. We had a lot of similar thoughts on things. We were talking about things for the future, and it just kind of gives you that energy to keep going with your day, don't you think? And especially if you're feeling, subpar.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's different for each of us how we keep ourselves mentally healthy. But to Heather's point, it's something we need to be aware of. The way that she kept mentally healthy is by being physically fit. She knew if she had a workout, her mind would also be better. So there was this, for her, it was a physical kickboxing or karate or whatever she was doing. And for others, it's going to be, a bubble bath or a conversation.
I like both of those things.
Me too.
Tennis got me through my divorce, and I got good really fast because I could knock the heck out of that ball. But the rest of my day was better because I got all of my frustrations out hitting a ball, which was allowed. You're allowed to hit a ball, not a person.
That's right.
And then, the bubble bath at night just caps it off.
There you go. There you go. Great combination.
Yeah, so, I think it's a good prescription for everyone. I recommend it.
Sold.
Your bubble bath is on your agenda for the night.
You got it, girl. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Well, as always, Elizabeth, we have solved the world's problems, at least the problem around mental health, but there are many different ways that we can keep in mind that our mental health is just as important as our physical health. So thank you everyone for joining us today, where passion and purpose collide, profits are made, and relationships are forged. This is Beck and Liz signing off and wishing you another purpose-filled and profitable week.